My cousin, who got me the job, joked loudly in the break room, "She's our charity hire, she's too soft for real work, but hey, it's cute she tries." I laughed it off in front of everyone. Behind the scenes, I worked twice as hard, earned twice as sales numbers, and when corporate asked me to recommend someone for layoffs, I smiled and slid his name right to the top of the list. I didn't want to move to Arizona. That wasn't part of the plan. I had a life in Joliet, Illinois. A quiet one. A good one, I thought. I was engaged. Had a small job at the public library. Nothing flashy, but I was happy. Then I found out he was cheating. With someone I knew. Someone who had come to our wedding shower. I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of him. I just left. Packed my car, grabbed what I could, and drove west with nothing but a duffel bag and a few thousand in savings. I landed in Scottsdale because a friend from college had a guest room and no questions. I didn't plan to stay long. I didn't plan anything, really. But money runs out fast when you're paying for gas station coffee and pretending you're fine. Darren, my cousin, lived nearby. We weren't close, but he had always been the smooth talker of the family. Used to brag at reunions about his sales numbers and six-figure bonuses. I never thought much of it. We came from different worlds. He invited me to a barbecue one weekend. I went because I needed to feel normal again. He handed me a beer, threw his arm around my shoulder, and said, "You know, my company's hiring. You want in?" I hesitated. I told him I didn't have any experience in finance. He laughed. "You don't need experience. You need guts. Besides, I'll vouch for you. They'll hire you if I say so." So I sent in a resume and got a call back 2 days later. Interview was a joke, more of a formality. I was in. Maddox Financial was all glass walls, fake smiles, and overpriced shoes. Everyone looked like they'd stepped out of an Instagram ad. I walked in with a thrift store blazer and nurse rattling in my chest. Darren introduced me around like I was a puppy he'd rescued. "This is Jess, my cousin. Be nice, she's new," he said, like I was 5 years old. People smiled. Said hello. Then turned back to their monitors. The training was rushed. The expectations were sky high. I sat through webinars and cold call drills and learned fast that the place ran on 2 things. Pressure and commissions. If you didn't sell, you didn't last. I was scared out of my mind. But I needed this job. The first week, Darren checked in on me. Gave me some scripts, told me which leads were garbage and which ones to chase. "Don't bother with the old folks," he said. "They ask too many questions." But I noticed something. He never stayed on one call for long. He flirted more than he worked. He spent hours on his phone. His charm carried him, but I saw him crash and burn on real clients too. By week 2, I closed my first deal. A small life insurance package. I was proud. Really proud. I sent Darren a message, "Just signed my first solo client." And got a thumbs up emoji back. Later that day, I walked into the break room to grab my lunch. It was packed. All the team was in there. Darren leaned back against the counter, holding court as usual. And then, he looked right at me and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "She's our charity hire, she's too soft for real work, but hey, it's cute she tries." The room went quiet. Then came the laughter. Some people laughed out of habit. Some laughed because they thought they should. But it was loud. And it echoed in my head. I froze. Then I forced a laugh. Like it didn't matter. Like it didn't feel like a knife right in my chest. I smiled. I nodded. I walked out with my sandwich and ate it alone in my car. That night, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. I reread every training packet. I started building a call script that actually worked. I stayed up till 2 a.m. writing out objections and answers. I recorded myself. I practiced. Because I made a decision that night, if he wanted to make me the joke, I'd make him regret it. For the next few months, I became invisible. Not to clients, to my coworkers. I stopped joining group lunches. I stopped chatting by the coffee pot. I kept to myself and buried my head in the work. I didn't just want to be better than Darren. I wanted to take his crown, burn it, and watch him pretend he didn't care. I studied our client database. I looked up every cold lead no one wanted. I made calls on my lunch break. I read up on policy loopholes and bonus payout tricks. I learned the game better than anyone. And slowly, it started to show. My name went up on the leaderboard. The whiteboard in the bullpen that tracked monthly commissions. At first, I was 6th. Then 3rd. Then 2nd. I didn't smile when it happened. I just kept working. Darren noticed. Of course he did. He started hovering near my desk, pretending to offer advice. He'd look at my screen and make passive comments. You sure you want to pitch that one? Bit aggressive for your style. You know, I'd handle that differently, but hey, maybe your clients like boring. I ignored him. Every time. But behind the scenes, I kept a journal. I wrote down everything. The dates, the comments, the times he passed off his screw-ups to me. I had screenshots, call logs, emails where he forgot to loop me in, but blamed me for missing info. It got worse when I landed a big account. It was a tech startup from Austin looking for employee benefit packages. Darren had tried to woo them 3 times and failed. I cold called the assistant on a Tuesday. By Friday, I had a virtual meeting booked. And 2 weeks later, I signed them. $250,000 in projected revenue. My bonus was huge. They announced it in the team meeting that Monday. Everyone clapped. Darren didn't. He just stared at me like I'd spit in his drink. Later that day, I went to the break room. He followed me in. You really think you belong here? He said, low enough that no one else could hear. You got lucky with one whale. Let's see how long you last before you break. I looked right at him and said, you should worry about your own numbers. He scoffed. I built this team. You think these people respect you? You're nothing without my name on your resume. I didn't answer. I just walked out. He didn't know I had already forwarded a file to HR, anonymous. With every time-stamped incident, call record, and client complaint he'd tried to bury. Then corporate sent an email, our region was underperforming. Downsizing was coming. Managers can submit private recommendations, it said. Performance reviews will be evaluated. Final decisions confidential. A week after the downsizing email, things shifted. People got quiet. Conversations dried up. Everyone started watching their backs. I noticed desks being cleaned. Personal items disappeared. The air smelled like fear. But Darren? He was louder than ever. He started throwing shade in meetings again. Started making jokes about dead weight and how some people couldn't sell water in a desert. Always loud. Always just subtle enough to give himself an out. I didn't rise to it. I didn't need to. Because I found out something. It was after hours, almost 7 p.m. The office was empty. I'd stayed behind to finish a presentation for a client. I walked past Darren's desk and saw something that made me stop. He had left his screen unlocked. Stupid. And on that screen was a draft email. Addressed to corporate, with my name on it. Jess means well, but she's clearly in over her head. I've had to step in and fix multiple client issues she's caused. She's also made several coworkers uncomfortable with her holier-than-thou attitude. I'm concerned she's a liability. There were lies. Bold ones. He was trying to flip the script before the hammer dropped. I didn't touch anything. I walked back to my desk and wrote down every word I could remember. I didn't take a screenshot. Didn't want to trigger any login activity. Then I called someone I never thought I'd call again. Carly. My old friend from Illinois. The one I lived with when I first came out here. She'd just landed a compliance job at an HR consulting firm. She owed me. She knew it. I asked her, "Can I send you something?" Hypothetical. Just want to know if what this guy's doing counts as retaliation. She said yes. I sent over the list, all of it. Every quote, every instance, everything I'd kept. 2 days later, she called back. "You need to go to your regional director." Like, now. I didn't ask why. I booked a meeting with Ron, the guy who wore the same tie every Monday. He wasn't flashy, but he listened. I laid it all out. I kept it factual. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and said, "I always knew he had a mouth, but this," he didn't finish the sentence. That Friday, corporate sent another email. Final decisions for restructuring will be made this weekend. Affected employees will be notified Monday. And that night, Darren didn't go home. He stayed late, pacing the hallway, whispering into his phone. I saw him from the parking lot as I left. Something in his face looked different. Not angry. Worried. Monday morning came like a storm. I woke up early, couldn't eat, couldn't breathe right. I got to the office 30 minutes before anyone else. I sat in my car, staring at the glass door, thinking about how far I'd come. And how far I might fall if this didn't go the way I hoped. At 9:03 a.m., the first email hit. Subject, restructuring, individual notices people got quiet real fast. Phone stopped ringing. No one looked each other in the eye. Some got up, walked to HR, came back crying. Then Darren's phone rang. He picked it up, nodded a few times, then stood up, face red, eyes wide. He grabbed his jacket, but he didn't leave. Instead, he walked straight to Ron's office and slammed the door behind him. For 15 minutes, I could hear yelling. Then the door opened. Ron stepped out first. Calm. Collected. Darren followed. Face pale. Hands shaking. He didn't say a word as he walked out. He didn't pack up his desk. Security did that later. I didn't smile. I didn't high-five anyone. I went to the break room, poured coffee, and sat down alone. I thought it would feel better. But it didn't. Not at first. That night, I got a message from Darren's personal number. It said, "You think you're clean? You stabbed family in the back. Hope it was worth it." I stared at that message a long time. And here's the part one never told anyone, not even Carly. I did twist the knife. That startup deal I landed? I didn't get it honestly. Darren's pitch notes were in the shared drive. I copied his whole proposal and reworked it under my name. I got the client by using his footwork. He'd warmed them up without knowing it. And when I filed my HR report, I left out one thing, that he'd once covered for a missed appointment I forgot about in month 2. He'd taken the heat that day. I repaid him by adding it to his pattern of behavior. Because I wanted him out. I didn't want fair. I wanted to win. A month later, I got a promotion. Bigger clients, more commission, corner office. Everyone clapped. Ron shook my hand and told me I was an example of perseverance. But when I looked in the mirror that night, all I saw was a woman who learned to play dirty, just like the man she hated. I don't regret it. Not really. But I don't feel proud either. Because revenge? It burns hot, then leaves everything cold. Even you. Especially you.